Two investors buy near-identical properties on the same street, 6 weeks apart, and one of them ends up paying $14,000 more tax on the exact same profit. Same suburb, same profit, same bank. One line in a budget bill split them apart. Rewind to a Tuesday night in May 2026, when Canberra quietly tore up the tax rule millions of property and share investors had built their strategy around. What if the version of that rule you learned was already the exception, not the norm? Most people assume this only touches property investors. It does not. The ATO confirms the change applies to shares, managed funds, business assets, and collectibles held by individuals, trusts, and partnerships. For decades, holding an asset past 12 months halved your tax bill automatically. That rule dies for anything sold after the 1st of July 2027. Nobody sent you a letter about it. Your accountant might not have raised it yet either. Part 1. The 349 days that change everything. The mechanics are simpler than the headlines make them sound. Sell an asset before the 1st of July 2027, and the existing 50% discount still applies in full. Sell it after that date, and you move into cost-based indexation, plus a flat 30% minimum tax on the gain instead. Take a Melbourne electrician earning $88,000 a year, who bought an investment unit for $610,000 back in 2019. Sell that unit in June 2027, and the old discount keeps roughly $8,000 in his pocket that the new rules would otherwise take. Wait 8 weeks. Sell the same unit in August 2027 instead, and indexation replaces that concession completely. Same person, same unit, 2 months apart. And that's before anyone mentions what happens inside your superannuation. The ATO already confirms these changes are now law, not a proposal sitting in Parliament. So, if 8 weeks can cost one tradie $8,000, how many of your own decisions are you making on autopilot without checking the date attached to them? Part 2. Cost base. Indexation is not new, it is a rerun. Cost base. Indexation is not some invention dreamed up in Canberra last May. It is the exact system Australia ran on before 1999, back when the 50% discount did not even exist yet. The tax office simply adjusted your purchase price for inflation, so you only ever paid tax on your real, inflation-adjusted gain. A parent who built a $340,000 share portfolio under that older system already knows exactly how it feels, just without the new 30% minimum tax now sitting on top. That system was scrapped in 1999 for being too complicated. Almost 30 years later, the government is bringing it back and adding the minimum tax that never existed the first time around. If your parents invested through the 1990s, they lived under rules closer to 2027 than to the ones you grew up assuming were permanent. That should make you angry, honestly. An entire generation was told the discount was simply how Australian tax worked, when it was really a 27-year experiment quietly ending on your watch, leaving a $240,000 retirement gap looking very different depending which side of July 2027 you land on. What else have you assumed was permanent that was actually just a policy of convenience? Part 3. The investor who sold early and the one who waited. Every investor holding an appreciating asset right now faces the same fork in the road. Sell before the deadline, or hold and gamble on indexation working in their favour long term. Take a Brisbane teacher on $96,000 a year, holding a share portfolio worth $165,000, bought steadily since 2015. Decision 1. She locks in her gain by 30 June 2027 and pays tax on half of it, the way every Australian investor has for over 2 decades. Decision 2. She holds, believing property and shares will keep climbing, and ends up selling in 2029 under the new regime instead. Under Decision 2, indexation only protects her against inflation, not against actual growth, and the 30% minimum tax bites regardless of her income that year. That last part matters more than people realise. Selling in a low-income year used to soften your tax bill. Under the new minimum tax, it barely will. Financial advisors across the country are suddenly busy. Nobody wants to make an irreversible decision on $350,000 of gains based on a guess about where markets go next. If you were her, would you lock in the old rules now, or bet on a system nobody has lived under in almost 30 years? Part 4. The $22,000 gap between Sydney and Perth. Where you invest changes how hard this reform bites, purely because of price, not because of anything you did. A Sydney investor holding an $890,000 apartment and a Perth investor holding a $540,000 house can face wildly different outcomes under the same law, simply because the Sydney gain is larger in dollar terms. With the RBA cash rate sitting at 4.35%, both of them are already paying more in interest than they were 3 years ago, and now the tax treatment of any eventual profit is shifting too. Run the numbers and the Sydney investor can lose around $22,000 more under the new minimum tax than under the old discount, purely because a bigger gain means a bigger 30% slice. The Perth investor, holding a smaller asset, feels the change but nowhere near as sharply. None of this is about who worked harder or planned better. It is about geography and timing, decided in a budget room, not at your kitchen table. That is oddly reassuring once it clicks. This was never a personal failure. It is a structural shift hitting an entire asset class at once, and it rewards nobody for guilt, only for paying attention to dates. So does it actually matter more where you invest, or when? Part 5. Is your superannuation actually untouched? Here is the answer to the loop from earlier. Your superannuation is the one place this reform is not expected to touch, at least not directly. The concessional tax treatment inside a super fund, including the discount on capital gains the fund itself earns, is expected to stay exactly as it currently stands. Compare two colleagues on similar wages. One holds an investment portfolio inside her superannuation fund. The other holds an almost identical portfolio personally, outside super, because she wanted quicker access to the money. From 1st July 2027, the colleague inside super keeps the existing concessional treatment on gains the fund makes, while the other moves on to cost-based indexation and the 30% minimum tax on hers instead. ASFA puts the amount needed for a single person's comfortable retirement at roughly $600,000, and the average Australian super balance sits closer to $170,000, which is exactly the kind of gap this structural choice can widen or close. That single decision, inside super or outside it, now matters more than it has in years. None of this needs panic. It needs a calendar, a clear-eyed look at what you actually hold, and a conversation with someone who has read the legislation rather than the headline. You were worried these rules broke everything at once. They did not, so where exactly is your own money sitting right now? Go back to those two investors on the same street, 6 weeks apart, one paying $14,000 more than the other for an identical profit. That gap was never about luck, or postcode, or who worked harder. It was a single date sitting inside a budget bill most people scrolled past in May 2026. The 50% discount that an entire generation of Australians built their retirement plans around is not gone for everyone, and it is not gone forever. It is gone for gains made after 1st July 2027, for everyone holding shares, property, or a business asset outside their super fund. The ATO has confirmed it. The date is locked in. So, knowing all that now, which side of that line is your own money actually going to land on?